After her father remarried, her stepmother made her life a living hell as her father watched on. The day my father told me he was remarrying, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. It had only been 6 months since my mother died, and I was still drowning in grief. The idea of someone else stepping into her place so soon felt like a betrayal, like she was being erased. I had spent nights crying myself to sleep, hoping for my dad to notice, to come home early just once instead of burying himself in work. But he didn't. And now he was telling me he was bringing home a new wife. For my sake, I begged him not to. I pleaded through tears, through words that tumbled out too fast, too raw, but his mind was made up. He held my hands and looked into my eyes, promising that Rose would make things better, that I wouldn't feel so alone. I wanted to scream that he had no idea how I felt, that he had abandoned me to my grief while he distracted himself with a new family. But I stayed silent, because deep down I knew he wouldn't listen. A month later, on my 17th birthday, Rose moved in with her daughter, Angel. I had thought losing my mother was the worst thing that could happen to me. I was wrong. The first thing they took was my room. I had come home from school to find my door locked. Confused, I knocked. Angel opened it with a smug smile, leaning against the frame like she owned the place. "What are you doing in my room?" I demanded. She shrugged. "Mom said this one is bigger. I need the space." I stormed past her, expecting to find my things untouched, but my bed was covered in her clothes, my bookshelf cleared of my favorite novels, my desk cluttered with makeup I'd never owned. My belongings, my childhood memories, my comfort, were stuffed into boxes on the floor. I spun to face her. "Where am I supposed to sleep?" She smiled sweetly, as if she wasn't taking over my life. "Mom said the guest room is yours now." The guest room. Small, cold, barely furnished. I ran downstairs, heart pounding in my chest.
Dad.
"Dad," she. "Jessica." Rose interrupted smoothly, appearing in the doorway before I could reach him. "I know this is a big adjustment for you, sweetheart. But you've been an only child for so long. Sharing is an important life skill." I looked past her to my father, searching for some sort of disagreement, for any sign that he would stand up for me. He only rubbed his temples. "Jess, just try to get along, okay? Rose is right. It's an adjustment for everyone." Angel stood at the top of the stairs, smirking. My hands clenched into fists, but I bit my tongue. I had already lost. It only got worse. My clothes started going missing. My books, my school supplies, things I needed vanished, only to appear in Angel's possession. When I tried to confront her, she rolled her eyes. "What's yours is mine, right?" she said, mimicking Rose's patronizing tone. When I went to my dad, Rose intercepted again, pressing a gentle hand to his arm. "Jessica's just not used to sharing. You know how only children are." And my dad, the man who had once doted on me, who had held me when I cried over my mother's death, sighed and nodded. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just losing my place in the house. I was losing my father, too. Then came the bruises. It started small. Rose accidentally grabbing my wrist too hard, pushing me out of the way when I was too slow. Angel followed her lead, slapping my arm when I didn't hand over the remote fast enough, shoving me into lockers when we passed each other at school. The first time I tried to stand up for myself, Rose cornered me in the kitchen. "You think you're the victim?" she sneered, her voice a low hiss so my father wouldn't hear. "You're just a spoiled brat who doesn't know how to live with other people. If you think your father will ever believe you over me, you're sorely mistaken." And she was right. When I tried telling my father, she played the loving stepmother, gasping at my accusations, feigning hurt. "Jessica, I love you like my own. I know you're upset, but you can't lie like this." I looked to my father, pleading silently, but his face was tired. "Jess, can't you just try? Rose is doing her best." That night, I cried myself to sleep. For the first time, I wondered if I was truly alone. I told Mia everything. She was my best friend, the only person who believed me. When I showed her the bruises, her face darkened. "We'll get proof," she promised. "If your dad won't listen, we'll make him." so we set up hidden cameras. In my new, cramped guest room. In the hall outside my door. In the living room, where Rose and Angel let their true colors show the most. Over weeks, I collected everything, Rose grabbing me by the arm, shoving me into walls. Angel sneering as she threw my textbooks into the trash. Their words, their cruelty, all recorded. For the first time in a long time, I had hope. But just as I was ready to show my father, the call came. He had been in an accident. A drunk driver. The doctors said he was in a coma. The world I had been trying so hard to fix collapsed beneath me once again. With my father unconscious, Rose didn't even pretend anymore. She locked me out of the house for hours at a time, stopped buying food I liked, and refused to let me study. "You'll never amount to anything anyway," she sneered one night as she poured my dinner into the sink. I stared at the wasted food, my stomach twisting with hunger and anger. "You won't get away with this," I whispered. She only laughed. "Who's going to stop me?" The answer was no one. Not yet. That night, I packed my bag and left. I ran to Mia's house, to the only safe place I had left. But even that safety wouldn't last forever. I should have felt safe at Mia's house. Her parents welcomed me with open arms, letting me stay in their guest room without hesitation. But safety was an illusion. I knew it wouldn't last forever. Rose's influence reached further than I ever imagined, and the war had only begun. For the first few weeks, I tried to breathe, to exist without fear. Mia helped me enroll in an online school so I could graduate. Her mother made sure I ate properly, noticing how malnourished I had become under Rose's neglect. But the wounds were deeper than hunger. Every night, I jolted awake at the phantom sound of Angel's laughter, at the imagined slap of Rose's hand against my skin. I wasn't just running from them anymore. I was running from my own memories. But then, the betrayal came. One afternoon, as I scrolled through my phone, searching for any updates about my father's condition, I received a message from an unknown number. "You think you're safe? You're pathetic." Chills ran down my spine. The number wasn't saved in my phone, but I knew the tone. Angel. Somehow, she had found my number. Mia walked in at that moment, noticing the way my hands shook. "Jess? What's wrong?" I hesitated before showing her the message. Her face darkened. "She's just trying to scare you. She's desperate now. You have proof against them. They're the ones who should be afraid." Her words made sense, but dread settled deep in my bones. I had underestimated Angel and her mother before. I wouldn't make that mistake again. A week later, the unthinkable happened. I had gone out to get some fresh air, taking a walk to clear my mind. But when I returned, Mia's mother met me at the door, her expression unreadable. "Jessica, dear. Someone came by looking for you." Panic flared inside me. "Who?" She hesitated. "A friend," she said. "She was worried about you." My blood ran cold. What was her name? Angel. I felt sick. How had she found me? My worst fears were confirmed when I stepped inside and saw Mia standing awkwardly in the living room, eyes darting away from mine. "You told her where I was?" My voice came out in a whisper, more betrayal than anger. Mia shifted on her feet. She seemed really upset, Jess. She said she wanted to talk to you, to apologize. I thought maybe. I didn't hear the rest. The walls closed in around me. My best friend, my only friend, had just handed my location to the people who ruined my life. I stayed up that night, waiting, watching. I knew they wouldn't stop at just finding me. And I was right. The next morning, my online school account was hacked. My assignments deleted. My email inbox flooded with threats. "You'll regret this. You should have stayed quiet." Then, Mia's parents started receiving strange phone calls. Rumors spreading about me, about how I was troubled, a liar, and mentally unstable. It was Rose's work. She was trying to turn them against me, to make them doubt me, just like she had done with my father. I couldn't let that happen. I packed my bags. "Where are you going?" Mia asked as she watched me throw my few belongings into a duffel. She sounded hurt, but I couldn't afford to care. "Somewhere they can't reach me." Her voice wavered. "I didn't mean to." But you did, I said, meeting her eyes. You handed me over to them. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I couldn't stay. Not after this. I rented a cheap room in a rundown part of town, using the little savings I had left. I was alone now, truly alone. But maybe that was for the best. I still had my evidence. I still had the truth. And if no one else would fight for me, I would fight for myself. I pulled up the files, the videos of Rose's cruelty, Angel's bullying. It was time for the world to see what they had done. Taking a deep breath, I uploaded everything to social media. Then, I waited for the fire to spread. The fire spread faster than I anticipated. Within hours, my posts had gone viral. Strangers flooded my inbox, some offering support, others accusing me of lying. News outlets picked up the story, turning my nightmare into a spectacle. But I wasn't backing down. I stayed glued to my screen, watching the world react. People demanded answers from my father. They questioned Rose's past, her influence, and her history of manipulation. Then came the backlash. My phone rang constantly, mostly from unknown numbers. Threats poured in. You think you're smart? Just wait. Delete everything or you'll regret it. I gripped my phone tighter. Let them come, I muttered to myself. The next morning, there was a knock at my door. My heart slammed against my ribs. I wasn't expecting anyone. I peered through the peephole.
Mia.
I hesitated before opening the door. What are you doing here? Her face was pale, dark circles under her eyes. Jess, I need to talk. I crossed my arms. Now you want to talk? After betraying me? I messed up, okay? I thought I was helping. I didn't think she'd. Mia exhaled sharply. I was wrong. Silence stretched between us. She's coming for you, Jess, Mia whispered. Rose is furious. She's calling in favors, trying to shut you down. And your dad. I swallowed hard. What about him? He's still in denial. He won't admit she manipulated him, but I think he's starting to doubt. A small flicker of hope stirred in my chest. He saw the videos? Mia nodded. He's not talking to anyone. Just locked himself in his office. That meant something. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't completely lost to me. By noon, the first lawsuit arrived. Rose had filed for defamation, claiming I had fabricated everything. I stared at the papers, my hands trembling. She's really trying to bury me. But I had expected this. I had already contacted a lawyer. We fight, I told him over the phone. We expose everything. He agreed. But this won't be easy. She has money, connections. I don't care. My voice was steel. I've been quiet long enough. The days blurred together. Court summons. Interviews. Social media warfare. Rose played the victim, painting me as a spiteful, troubled girl out for revenge. Then a bombshell. An anonymous tipster leaked Rose's financial records. It turned out she had embezzled money from a charity she ran with my father. The internet turned on her instantly. My father finally called. His voice was quiet, strained. Jessica. I waited. I saw everything. I don't know how I let it get this far. My throat tightened. You let her turn you against me. I know. His voice broke. I'm so sorry. For the first time in years, I heard sincerity in his voice. She ruined our family, Dad. And I won't stop until she pays for it. A beat of silence. Then I won't stop either, he said. Let's end this. The battle lines were drawn. My father had finally stepped out of his daze and saw the monster he had married. But that didn't mean Rose would go down without a fight. If anything, she fought harder, like a cornered animal with nothing to lose. The defamation lawsuit against me crumbled almost overnight. The leaked financial records had turned the tide. It wasn't just me exposing Rose now. It was the media, the internet, and even some of her old allies who were quick to distance themselves from the scandal. But she wasn't finished. A week later, I received an email. An anonymous source had sent me a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, that Rose had forced my father to sign when they married. The document limited what he could say about their finances, their home life, and even me. My stomach churned as I read it. This was how she had controlled him for so long. She legally silenced him. I muttered. My father confirmed it that night. She made me believe it was standard, that it was to protect Angel's privacy. But really, it was to keep me in check. We can use this, I said. It shows how manipulative she was, how she trapped you. If we take this to court, he sighed. Jessica, I want to fight, but I also want to protect you. She's desperate. If we push too hard, she might do something reckless. I shook my head. She already has. And she won't stop until she's forced to. That night, the threats escalated. A brick shattered my window at 2 a.m. My heart pounded as I leapt from my bed. Glass covered my bedroom floor, sparkling in the moonlight. My phone buzzed seconds later, a text from an unknown number. Stop this, or you'll regret it. I refused to be afraid. I called the police, but there wasn't much they could do without proof. Still, the message was clear. Rose wasn't going down quietly. Mia visited the next morning. She's unraveling, she said. Angel is too. I frowned. What do you mean? Mia hesitated. I ran into her yesterday. She looked broken. She was crying, saying her mom lied to her, that they were losing everything. I wanted to feel satisfaction, but all I felt was exhaustion. Did she admit anything? Mia nodded. Not in so many words, but she said something about you ruining everything because you refused to play along. It sounded like she knew the truth deep down. She just didn't want to face it. She's complicit, Mia. She helped Rose torment me. I know, she said. But I think she's starting to realize that Rose doesn't actually care about her either. A thought occurred to me. If Angel turns on Rose, we might have a key witness. 2 days later, my father made his move. He filed for divorce. It was the final nail in Rose's coffin. The moment the papers were served, she lost the last of her control over him. She tried to fight back, tried to play the victim in the media, but the damage was done. The evidence against her was overwhelming. The embezzlement scandal, the abuse, the NDA, the manipulation, it was all out in the open now. And then the biggest twist of all. Angel flipped. I don't know if it was fear, desperation, or a genuine change of heart, but she agreed to testify against her mother. She gave up everything, text messages, emails, and even a hidden bank account where Rose had been stashing stolen money. It was over. The dust had settled, but I was still standing in the wreckage of what once was my life. For the first time in years, I wasn't fighting to survive. I was learning how to live again. Rose was in prison, her manipulative web torn apart thread by thread. Angel was sentenced to community service and therapy, finally forced to face the consequences of her complicity. My father, broken and regretful, was making efforts to rebuild our bond. But where did that leave me? The scars of the past still lingered, ghosts whispering in my mind late at night. I had spent so long being a victim, fighting against the world. Now, with the war over, I wasn't sure who I was supposed to be. Jess, you need to start thinking about what's next, Mia said one evening as we sat in my tiny apartment. You have your whole life ahead of you now. No more running, no more fighting. Just living. Living. The word felt foreign on my tongue. I don't even know where to start, I admitted. Mia smiled. Then let's start with something simple. What do you want? It was such a small question, but it felt monumental. What did I want? For so long, I had been consumed by revenge, by survival, by fighting to be heard. I had never really considered what I wanted beyond that. I thought about school. I thought about the dreams I had abandoned when Rose took over my life. I had always wanted to pursue law, to help people who had no one to fight for them the way I had fought for myself. I think I want to go back to school, I said hesitantly. Study law. Mia's face lit up. That's amazing, Jess. You'd be incredible. It felt right. It felt like the first step toward reclaiming my life. The next few months were a whirlwind. I applied to universities, took part-time jobs to save up, and slowly began piecing myself back together. My father remained in the background, making small gestures to show he was trying. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Then, one day, I received an email from a non-user with subject, "You think it's over?" My blood ran cold. The message was short, but the intent was clear. You may have won, but people like you don't get happy endings. Watch your back. I clenched my fists. I wasn't afraid anymore. Whoever was behind this, whether it was Rose, someone connected to her, or just a faceless troll, I had spent too long being a victim. I refused to be one anymore. The email didn't scare me. If anything, it fueled me. It reminded me why I had fought so hard to take back my life and my future. Instead of replying, I forwarded it to my lawyer and filed a report with the police. Let them deal with whatever was left of Rose's influence. I had bigger things to focus on. University acceptance letters started rolling in. I chose one close to home, but far enough that I could have a fresh start. Moving day was surreal. Packing up what little I had, stepping out of the shadows of my past, and into the light of my future. Mia helped me settle into my dorm. As we unpacked, she turned to me with a smirk. So, you ready for this? I took a deep breath.
Yeah.
I think I am. It wasn't just about school. It was about letting go, about healing, about proving to myself that I wasn't defined by what had happened to me. I was defined by what I did next. Months passed, and I thrived. Studying law gave me a sense of purpose. I made new friends, built a new life, and slowly, the pain of my past stopped defining me. It would always be a part of me, but it wasn't my whole story anymore. One day, I received a letter. No return address. My stomach twisted as I opened it. Jessica, I know I can never undo what I've done. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm trying. I'm taking accountability. I've started therapy. Angel has too. I don't know if we'll ever be able to fully make amends, but I hope one day you'll find peace. 3. Your father. Tears pricked my eyes. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. I folded the letter, placed it in my drawer, and turned back to my books. For the first time in a long time, I felt whole. And I knew my story was only just beginning.